Hello everyone, hope you're all doing really well today. Today I'm going to be coming at you with a recommendations video. I don't think I've ever done one of these videos, but I just felt like it was about time that I put all these books that I'm reading to use and actually recommend something to you that is consistent read this. So I have 8 high fantasy book series or books to recommend to you guys today. And these are the best high fantasy books. It's high fantasy / epic fantasy, so they are tougher reads, but I'll talk more about that in the individual books. I'll be counting down from 0 to the top one. So, and then after that I will do 2 special mentions, I think. On 8th place of the best high fantasy I've ever read comes the Alchemist of Loom series. I think they're called the Loom Saga. If you read the first one and you become discouraged because you don't like it that much, don't worry, the second one is better, and the third one is even better. It just gets better and better. This is a steampunk dystopian fantasy, so you're following this character called Ari. Ari is a chimera or chimera, I don't know how you say it, which means that she is half human, half dragon. Dragon are these creatures that live in the sky on this cloud kingdom called Nova. And dragons have special powers in each of their organs, and a chimera, so Ari, our main character, she has dragon organs within her, and each organ has a special power, so when she transplants that organ within her, she gets that special power. And Ari is so kick-ass, she knows everything, she has this hidden past that you slowly get to uncover. You also get to follow her apprentice on her journey as she tries to save Loom from the grip of Nova. Nova has a completely different government. It's really interesting seeing the Cloud Kingdom of Nova and how they're much more native in a way, and Loom has developed all this machinery and all the steampunk aspect of this. So I really recommend this fantasy. It is on 8th place, so it's definitely not a top priority because there's some great fantasy series coming up. The 7th best high fantasy I've ever read are the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy. So these are written by V.E. Schwab. A lot of people say that this is an adult, but I would definitely say this is young adults. This is such a great series that just captivates you and just makes you want to continue reading. So it's really great in that aspect. In this world, there's 4 different versions of London. There is Red London, Grey London, White London, and Black London. And the main character, he has the ability to travel between the different dimensions of London, and he gets caught smuggling something which he's not allowed to do, because he actually works for the different kings in the different versions of London, and it is really good. The magic is very interesting and very captivating, and there's so many hidden clues in Victoria Schwab's writing that reference other things, Harry Potter, if you're really trying to look for it. So if you like Harry Potter stuff, yeah, I just do recommend this series. I like the characters in this series. It is a young adult, but it is also high fantasy, and I think it's really, really good. So the 6th and 5th place on this scale or whatever are very different books, but they're basically the same amount of love that I have for both of them. So on 6th place we have The Wise Man's Fear. Oops. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is gonna be more, I think it's gonna be a trilogy, and the 3rd book hasn't come out yet, which is so frustrating. But this is an epic fantasy, and it is so good. And I think what I love about this fantasy is it definitely introduced me to epic fantasy in a way that's very approachable. I think a lot of people, when they think of fantasy, thinks of it as a very intimidating thing, but actually this was recommended to me by a person who doesn't read fantasy at all, almost doesn't read. So it's a very good book to start out reading fantasy, adult fantasy, even if you just read regular contemporary books or just adult literature. In these tales, you follow this character called Kwathi, and he is an innkeeper now and goes by a different name, and all of a sudden there comes this scribe and that visits him, and he gets to finally tell his life story of the boy he used to be, Kwathi, and you get to follow him as he grew up, basically as a traveler, a musician, and how his parents were killed by these magical demons that have been rumored to exist, but very few people know they actually exist. And it's a very slow moving plot because you get to follow his entire life story, and parts of it is very tragic. But what I really do enjoy about this is that the main character is absolutely brilliant. You love him in every way, like with all his flaws. And I was so devoted into this book, and it just keeps you captivating. And this world is amazing with all the different different types of people and religion, and the magic system is explained by science, which is something I really appreciate in fantasy books. So this is a really great series, and some might say that this is like their top one. It is very famous, and I highly recommend it. And the little short story or novella that is on the side is also really good. So on on 5th place are The Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. Now, I'm currently reading Muse of Nightmares, so I feel like I can't put this on here yet, but I've started reading it and I have not been able to put it down. I've been reading so much of this book. Like, it is so great. Every second of it is so amazing, and I think because I've read Laini Taylor's other series that I can just see how much she's grown, and the way she writes is just perfect. Like, there's nothing I would change about it. She has a lot of metaphors and a lot of this like this. I know there's a name for it. And she uses things to describe other things that are just so different, but it totally makes sense when she says it. It's really magical. So in this world, you follow Laszlo Strange, which is an orphan that became a librarian, and he has always been obsessed by this city called Weep. And Weep is like this hidden mystical place that many have been talking about, but nobody can say its original name, and everyone just calls it Weep instead. And all of a sudden he gets an opportunity to visit Weep, and you follow two perspectives, one that is Laszlo and one that is this other character that you meet way further in the book, and I definitely don't want to spoil that because it's so great when you get to know about it. But basically in this world there are kind of seraphim, which are these gods in a way, and it talks a lot about gods and demons and people with powers, and it's really great. But the writing is amazing, and it's just, I think Laini Taylor, what she does so well is keep the pacing really good. She has a really nice pacing, so everything you want to happens at the right time, and she uses the right amount of time to explain the things that happen. So that's like the hardest part about books, and sometimes why you don't like a book, and I think that's what makes this book so great. These books so great. So the rest of the books that are 4, 5, and 4, 3, 2, and 1 are just all really great. Like, I can't recommend any of these books enough. And I think I'll start with like Brandon Sanderson's books because I have not read all of them, and I want you to consider that when watching this video. These are all my favorite books of the ones that I have read, and there are like tons more. I haven't read the Rivalara Revelations, the Black Prison series. I haven't read the Demon King. I haven't read so many like famous series, so there's gonna be definitely a second part to this when I've read more favorite fantasy series. So let's just get started. So first I want to talk about Warbreaker. This is the first book that I read by Brandon Sanderson, and it totally hooked me. Once I read this book, I was like, I'm gonna read all his stuff, no matter what it is. I'm just gonna read all his stuff, and I'm so glad I read this book. His writing is so good, and like, the world and the magic, and it's just insanely amazing. So in this book, you follow two sisters who are princesses, and one of them is being married to this other kingdom to keep a sort of truce. In this other kingdom, they have a very strange hierarchy. Basically, they pick gods to worship that leads the government. I think that's how it is. It was a while since I read this book, almost a year now, but it's really great. Each person has a breath, and that breath can be given to others, but it can't be taken. People who have a lot of breaths can make other things, inanimate things, come alive, and they can also see the world with more color, more clearly. So the magic system is really cool. And This book has a character that comes again in another series, so if you're interested in this vast, like insanely complicated world that is the Cosmere universe that Brandon Sanderson has created, like it is one of the biggest joys of my life, like getting to discover the way he writes in the Cosmere universe. It's so great. And after that, I want to talk about Elantris. This is his other standalone novel. I think there's going to be a sequel to Warbreaker though, so this is his first novel and it's still so good. I think this one is more like easily digested. The other one was a little bit hard to get into. I remember a Warbreaker, the first 200 pages was really slow, but when you finish it, it's like this one is much easier to read and get into. So this is following this city called Elantris, and they used to have these gods that would shine and be white, silverish, and all of a sudden 10 years ago they got this disease and all Elantrians turned into living dead people. And so every person who has been turned into an Elantrian after that has been put into the city and conserved there, and right now the city of Elantris has so many living dead people, and you get to follow 3 different perspectives: a priest who's trying to convert the whole city into his religion, a prince who gets this disease, a princess who's supposed to marry the prince. And it's just really interesting. This one is mainly about religion and the different points of views on religion, and it's really interesting. Definitely makes you think. Highly recommend it. And I don't know which one of these 2 are my favorite. Like, they're so good. So next we have the Way of Kings series. This is the Stormlight Archives, I think they're called. And the first one is The Way of Kings, The Words of Radiance. And this one, The Oathbringer, I think it's gonna be like a humongously long series and I'm so excited for it. This is like the king of epic fantasies. Like, it's so insanely good. And both Elantris and Warbreaker have things in them that will be present in this book. If you like one of those books, I think I recommend reading the other one before you start reading this series, because it's like insanely good. Like, if you have not read any Brandon Sanderson, like, you need to read it. He's so good. Like, it's so amazing. It will change your life. Like, I can't stop smiling. I'm so excited. So this is like world where there are loads of storms and sand, and it has illustrations of like creatures who live there, their clothing, and all the plants are invented and all the maps and everything. Like, you can see this world in front of you, and it's just so good. You get to follow so many perspectives and they're so interesting, and I can't wait to read these books again. Like, I'm gonna read them so many times out of my lifetime. I don't know how to explain these books because the plot is really complicated, but I just really just read it. This is me just pushing all these books into your hands. Oh, so good. And the top one is, of course, Harry Potter. I feel like I don't need to talk about this too much, but I would probably say that Brandon Sanderson's books are better than Harry Potter. I know, like, someone's gonna kill me. I am like a huge Harry Potter fan, okay? So like, don't judge me too harshly, but yeah, Harry Potter, boy, is the chosen one. Read it, middle grade, everyone can read it. It's amazing. It makes you feel like home. It is perfect for everything that you want in life. Yeah. Oh, this color is almost like matching the color of my cheeks. Okay, stop. After Now, I want 2 special mentions because both of these series are really good and I would like to recommend them. And the first one is the Ember in the Ashes series. I think this is gonna be a 4-book series, and the last one is The Reaper at the Gates, which I just recently read. This is like a Roman-inspired high fantasy where you follow these scholars who have been oppressed in society, and the main character, Laia, she's trying to get her brother back when he's being taken by this martial empire that is currently ruling. It is a really good series. It is a young adult, but it doesn't feel like it's young adult that much. I do highly recommend the series, but it doesn't make it to the top list, if you know what I mean. And lastly, I want to recommend the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. This is Laini Taylor's other series, and I read this one after I read Slow Strange, which is called Strange the Dreamer, so it's still really, really good, and I would recommend it, but definitely read like that one first because it is better. So those are all the books that I have to recommend for you guys today. I hope you got some great recommendations, and tell me below if you read any of these books and what your favorite high fantasy or epic fantasies are. I would love some recommendations. Thank you guys all for watching, and have a brilliant and magical day. Nice ending.